Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner-Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Introspection from Grief to Growth. I am your host, Amy Lindner-Lesser, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. And I thought I would try something new. Are you ready for it? Many people have been asking questions, so I have a few questions I thought we would answer. And then also, I have a practice of reading and drawing and reading card decks. And I drew two cards before the recording from a deck called Spirit Messages. And the first one is called Choices. And what it says is when you accept responsibility for your life and the choices you make, you begin to tap into the power of your own spirit. You'll be able to listen to and appreciate the intuitive wisdom that's inside you and apply it positively and constructively to your outside world. Well, whether you believe in intuitive messages or not, I think that the message of choices and taking responsibility for your life is a really important one. Many of us, as we're navigating a life quake, whether it's the death of a loved one, the loss of a very important relationship, either through divorce or breakup, or even being terminated from a job, or whatever your life quake is, we tend to feel like a victim. It happened to me. And I'm not saying that what we need to do is take responsibility for having it happen. However, the simple shift in language, going from it happened to me to it happened for me, makes a world of difference. Think about it. If something is happening for you, for your benefit, even if it's a really tough thing that's happened, you can, when you take responsibility and feel that it's for you, you can start to think of the lessons that are in it. What is it that God or the universe is wanting you to learn? What's in it for you? That's one of my favorite radio stations, WIFM, which is What's in it for me. It's a way of looking at things as not being a victim. And when you're not a victim, you can be in control of how you feel, of the actions and the next steps that you take. When we go through a life quake, when we're navigating, especially the death of a loved one, it's very hard for this to happen immediately. However, give it a little bit of time. It will happen if you want it to happen. We are in control of our reactions and our responses to events. Crying is essential. It's important. Feeling sad is also. And yet, those are not the only emotions. The other emotions are, we had a wonderful time doing XYZ or going on that vacation. I have fabulous memories of that. And you know what? I can do that again. Maybe not with that person, but I can still go on trips. I can find a group of widows, widowers, single people, go with friends, go with family. I can still travel if that's what I want to do. I can make new memories. One of the things that I've learned from the death of my husband was that I can do hard things. What do I mean by that? I could live alone. I had never, ever lived on my own before. And after my kids moved out, when they got old enough and left for college or got their own apartments, I was living alone. I was learning to not run away from my life, that I took responsibility for my life. Before I started to do that, I would say yes to invitations because it was easier to be with people, doing things I didn't necessarily want to do, with people I didn't necessarily enjoy being with, but it was easier than being alone. Being alone was scary. It was only me. It was my feelings. I had to take responsibility for them. I had to take responsibility for my life. And what came out of that was I learned that I love to write. I knew I loved to read. And so I read, I wrote stories, I journaled. I took my phone and started taking pictures of things. I would take myself on drives. And years later, I went to join a group for a retreat in Paris. I flew to Paris on my own. I got to the hotel the day before a woman I was going to share a room with who I'd never met, but we agreed to share a room. I took myself in Paris, not having spoken any French in probably 30-something years since high school. And I walked in the evening for dinner, managed to order my dinner, came back to the hotel and went to sleep and woke up, took myself out for breakfast, and then got back to the room and met my roommate. I did it. I did it on my own because I said, I'm not going to allow circumstances to run my life. I'm taking control. I'm not unusual. You can do it too. You have to figure out what it is that you want to do. And you may not know. There were many things I tried that I didn't really enjoy. And that's okay too. Because sometimes when you identify what you don't want, it helps you get closer to what you do want.
Life quakes or life transitions and the aftershocks that follow are something we all experience. A life quake can stem from the heartbreaking grief that arises from the loss of a loved one, or the disorientation felt when life suddenly shifts due to the loss of a job, relationship, identity, or health challenge. Learning to navigate these transitions with mindfulness, grace, and self-compassion is the key to finding your way back to joy, happiness, and inner peace. Advanced Grief Recovery Method Specialist and Certified Life Transition Coach, Amy Lindner Lesser, MSW, expertly supports clients to navigate their life quakes and transitions with warmth, kindness, and grace. Learning to accept support as you navigate your way through the aftershocks is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Learn more at introspection.com. That's introspection.com.
The second card that I drew is the caregiver card. And it says, we are with you, and Spirit has its own way of recognizing the care and love you provide to others, especially at the end of their lives, just as you received care and love at the start of your life. Caregivers often focus all their attention on their loved ones and often neglect their own concerns and well-being in the process. This is a really synchronistic card for me today, because in my Facebook group, Navigating Through Life Transitions, one of the members talked about being a caregiver for her mother. Her mother got COVID, got sick, then got dementia, and she cared for her mother for quite a few years. And eventually, mom got dementia, and she had to put her into a hospice program, and then mom died. And she was talking about feeling guilty. And one of the things that I talked to her about was remembering, number one, that self-care is really important. We cannot care for anyone else if we are not well cared for. So we have to put us and our care top of our list. It's like the flight attendants tell you, if you're flying with someone else, put your own oxygen mask on first. Why? Because what good are you to somebody else if you're not breathing anymore? If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of the people that you love. The other thing is that we are cared for as infants, hopefully. Most of the time we are. And it's a way of giving back to the same people who cared for us by caring for them. Finding a tribe or people who support you and care for you is really important. You don't need hundreds of friends. You need a few good friends who you may not even talk to that often. They're there for you when you need it. Sometimes we can read each other's minds and reach out across miles and say, I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? And by the way, when that happens, when you start to think about somebody who you may not have seen in a while, there's a reason for you to thinking about them. Reach out to them. They may need you, and they may not be aware that they need you or even thinking about reaching out. We're really not great at asking for help. And that's something that I want to encourage everyone to learn, to ask for what it is that you need. We're not mind readers. The other thing is think about the grace and the care that you give to the people that you care about. If the person that you love said that they're feeling guilty because they took care of themselves instead of going to see mom or dad or whoever, what would you say to them? Would you tell them, it's okay, you needed it. You needed to recharge your battery so that you could be there for them? Or would you say, oh, that's terrible? I don't think you would. I think you would give them grace. I think you would say to them, we can only do what we can do. And it doesn't help to tire yourself out or to burn yourself out. When I started coaching, I really had hoped to work with innkeepers, which is why my business is spelled with the two N's at the beginning, like an inn. Because one of the things that I knew was that the innkeeper career tends to be 3 years. And I know that innkeepers spend a fortune, often their life savings or their retirements, to buy their business and then to run it, only to burn out in 3 years. Well, why does that happen? It happens because they're so busy taking care of everyone else that they forget their own needs. They are with their guests 24/7. They're in their at their beck and call. That doesn't help anybody. And the sad thing is that most of the innkeepers that I talked to didn't even see that they were going to burn out, that it was a problem. So I want to suggest to you that it's not the way to run things. If you're a caregiver, and most of us are, whether we have a partner we're caring for, or young children, or older parents, or whoever it is, put ourselves first. Set boundaries. Boundaries are as much a protection of your own time and energy as they are keeping people away. The whole idea is to protect your energy so that you're not spending a valuable resource when you don't have it. Don't burn yourselves out. So those are my 2 card readings for you today. I want to let you know that I believe in you. I appreciate you. I want you to do the same for you. And I'll see you here in 2 weeks. Until then, I love you. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner Lesser. Thanks again for listening.